Hi everyone, welcome to Pasternak Society. We're gonna just do some drama. Also, the Russian Revolution is going to happen, but not today. It's only going to start today. We're only getting up to the precipitating action. Um, the very kind and wonderful podcaster Mike Duncan posited a theory of revolutions in his Revolutions podcast, and one of these necessary components is what he calls a Greek idiot. And Nikolai II of Russia is one of history's greatest idiots. So yeah, let's just dig into it. Hey folks, let me introduce the cast. The cast are amazing. So why don't we just start with Richard? Hey Richard, tell us about Sioma.
Hey, I'm Richard, and I am playing Semyon Semyonovich Sidorov, aka Sioma. And Sioma is uh, a frustrated rival of Petya, Pyotr Sergeyevich, uh, who, because Pyotr was ready to throw everyone else under the bus so he could have a assassination fit. I the police gave me no choice but to confirm. I really didn't confirm anything. I just told them where to find him. Uh, on the promise that it would get innocent people out of jail. So Pyotr has gone from disliking me to hating me. You're muted, Kat. Pyotr, you're muted.
I know, I was just mugging for the camera. No, I mean we don't know that he hates you. I mean,
You know,
it's not a bad assumption.
As close to hate as a poet can get.
Oh no, but he's not just a poet, he's radical socialist revolutionary. So,
Whatever.
that starts getting up into the major that's a major league level, They're
really,
asking to warm in the bullpen at that point.
All of the hard talk I was gonna have with him about his poetry is probably out the window.
I have plans for this reunion, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we're not gonna be talking about your poetry.
Probably not, but we might. You never know.
And that's sort of where we are this week in the relationship of Semyon and Pyotr.
So why don't we next go to our unfortunately missing friend from last time, the melodramatic heart and soul of this outfit. So please, Daryl, why don't you tell us about Ruslan, who, was smart enough to go to the south of France or fucking something last time.
That's right. Yes. Hi, hello. Daryl, they, them pronouns. I am playing Ruslan Borisovich Vasilyev, who is an architect and a photographer. We saw in the youth chapter that I was here for, a bit of he's a little all over the place, just here to have a good time, mostly looking to grow his artistic pursuits as a photographer because it's the one claim to an artistic lifestyle that he has in an otherwise unfulfilling life as an architect. He has I don't think he thinks it's complicated, but I'm sure it's about to get a lot more complicated relationship with Konstantin, who he lives under one roof with. The last time we saw him before everything went down, he was having a grand old time teasing his cousin Lilya with an impromptu photo shoot. I think he was looking to have fun and create a little lightness in times that have very quickly gone dark. Last time around, he was, as was mentioned, dallying off in the south of France on a photography expedition, as one does, and avoids all of the requisite things that happen. Came back to find things basically on fire. Was like, oh wow, there's so much happening, and we're going to see how he feels and deals with that, and also continues to sink more into the mire that has just flooded all of his associates and friends at this point. So that's Ruslan.
Oh, Ruslan. It's gonna be so. Yeah, we're gonna have to cover. We're gonna have to cover 10 whole years in between. So I'm working on that. But in the meantime, someone who was not fortunate enough to be in the south of France last time and suffered greatly for it. So please let's welcome Daphne, who is playing Lilya Viktorovna Kovalyova.
Yes, hello. Name's Daphne. Use her pronouns. And yeah, Lilya, she's gone through quite a bit. She's a martyr of the bourgeois background. She is, last time we saw her, she was like, yeah, kind of going through the ingenue part of her life before martyrdom beckons. And um, the said martyrdom came from finally committing to her secret engagement with Petya, right as he's taken away um, to Siberia to answer for his crimes. Also, in the middle of that, Lydia was caught up in the protests, was quite injured, and I think when we come back to these characters after these introductions, you'll find that she has been kind of basically collecting Petya's writings and has been like trying to like keep his name alive, and has basically probably sacrificed the rest of her life to hold that up. Because what else is more important? It's not like she had much going on. Sure, she could look like she had Sure, her cousin made her look like a beautiful goddess, and she probably could have been something like that. I don't know, but that's not as important now. So, and it's coming up for her. Like, I say this about every character I play in these, but it all comes up for them. Yeah.
No, I have nothing to add. Yeah, yeah. And so let's go next to our dear co-creator, Serafina, who is playing Konstantin Vasilyevich Ivanov, who, is a limousine liberal whose limousine broke down in the wrong lane last time.
Yeah, I think Serafina, any and all of the pronouns. Konstantin, I think, up until last episode, was like his heart was in the right place, but like you said, limousine liberal vibes. And now he is different. I'm not sure how he's different, but he's different. And his experience of injustice and difficulty and class warfare and all of those things is going to be intense. So see how this goes.
It's gonna go swimmingly. I mean, I had to brag on the Story Brewers Discord last week that after like 10 runs of this bloody thing, not only did we finally have our second on-screen murder, we finally got a main character sent to Siberia. That would be me. I am Kat. I had this idea a while ago. I'm so glad I did. I'm playing Petya, Pyotr Sergeyevich Kadavasov. He is a poet, medical student, and socialist revolutionary radical. Not a socialist revolutionary. We did that joke last week. Last week, he witnessed the tragic death of a visiting peasant, and then committed a vengeful murder after a protest was attacked by the forces of the autocracy, for which trouble he was sentenced to hard labor in Siberia and was dragged away. And the 10-year time skip is mostly the period of his exile. So not that I'm the main character, it's just that works out really nice. So by internal evidence and plan, That means we left off sometime around the winter of 1904 to 1905, which makes sense because of anti-Russo-Japanese war protests. That means Petya manages to miss out for most of the revolution of 1905, which is very important and almost worked, but it ends up being a bit of a wet firecracker, though. There's a temporary period of constitutional reform in Russia, and all kinds of stuff happened. I saw a video that talked about Russia and why it's so hard to understand exactly where it fits into this game, and that's the problem. The problem is that there's like at least 3 Russias. The first Russia is the Russia of the capitals, which is a European state that's on par with every other European state, and it is in literature and music is near the pinnacle of civilization. Then you have the second Russia, which is the medieval countryside, and I'm not using medieval lightly. They are not too far from that. And then you have the conquered and colonized regions out in the east. So 3 Russias, and nobody could reconcile it. Not even the Soviets. Their ultimate solution was just to try and make them all homogenized to some extent, which didn't work that great, but better than the other things that were tried. Maybe. You know, it just depends on how many people you're willing to tolerate losing. So, to cover this 10-year gap, we had some homework. The idea is that you will change one of your existing tags, either positive or negative, just one though, and keep the other. So the theory is that there's some through line to your earlier character. And then choose another positive and another negative tag. So I did that. Petya went from dedicated and hot-headed to dedicated and cold-blooded. And then I added empathic and militant, because that's just a winner of a combination right there. And after that, I think the way to cover this is probably going to be to do some sort of mixed montage where we'll do like 3 rounds and you can write a letter or have a scene or do a monologue like on each turn, something like that. That's what I'm thinking. But we'll see. I'm making this up as I go. I mean, there's an actual game. It's very good. It covers this. It's so you can do Louisa May Alcott stories. But I don't find that we need the full formal apparatus of Castles in the Air, though I recommend it. I got to play cowboy in it. Or as I like to put it, he wandered out of a Louisa May Alcott novel and into a Cormac McCarthy novel and came back different. Also, another thing that we should probably consider for a 10-year gap is it's a 10 fucking year gap. Configurations are gonna change.
Yeah.
I fully expect Lilya to marry somebody else. I mean, let's not be ridiculous here. That doesn't mean she will, because I ain't the pilot of Daphne's Destiny. But like, would not be surprised in the least if that happened. And of course, Constantine probably needs to get married, so you know.
Yeah, I think Lilya's mom would be insistent. Like a marriage pact made while delirious and suffering a head wound
to a political prisoner.
To a political prisoner. I guess it would have held up if it was anything other than political prisoner.
No. To add on to this week's weirdness, in order to get a feel for what Siberian exile looked like, I decided to read Dostoevsky's Notes from the Dead House, which is it was not on my list of things to read, but it was actually quite good. I could see why Tolstoy thought it was the best thing he ever wrote. I'm also not surprised that's the one thing Tolstoy picked out, because it like totally makes sense for Tolstoy. It's like not great as a novel, but as a memoir, it's pretty good. It's kind of interesting because you can see the early Dostoevsky was like very much influenced by Gogol, and then the guy who would be obsessed with how the admirable can be wicked and the wicked can be admirable for the rest of his career is clearly emerging out of this horrific experience he suffered.
Yeah.
A lot of it was boring as fuck, and the work sucked. He was a nobleman among. I mean, nobleman. He had Russian nobility That doesn't mean Dostoevsky was entitled noble. He just was of that class. So he had no comradeship with the peasants who would come. Very interesting piece. Also, there's a dog. So. All right. So everyone's set with that? That looks good. Dokie. All right. So yeah, what I think is maybe what we can do is we can all set like a short montage. We did one at the end of last session, but also because we can catch up Ruslan that way, and of where people are sort of at the start of this time jump, and then do a couple 3 rounds of stuff. And I think letter, scene, monologue, those like scene meaning like vignette, like paint a picture of something with a little bit of dialogue if you need it. How's that sound to people? Sound okay? All right. Anybody want to start? Oh, and then we can do the red carnations thing and conclude back on a brief vignette montage when we're done, as we come back to sometime right around the start of World War One. Maybe I think probably during the start of World War One, because we definitely need the chance to get recruited for the army in this.
Oh, I don't have to worry about that.
No. Unless you decide to be a patriotic Russian woman and become a nurse.
Oh yeah, that does happen.
I mean, that's literally what happens in Zhivago.
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
I am totally going to end up an orderly in the war. But I already figured that one out a long time ago.
So we're not gonna have anyone go full Strelnikov.
I mean,
You don't
somebody's
have to, just
going
because you have the
to.
faceplate.
I mean, the odds of him coming back as a member, as a delegate member of the Soviet of Red Army of West Eastern Front soldiers is very high. So, I mean, I've been waiting for the opportunity to say all power to the Soviets of workers, peasants, and soldiers. So like 10 runs, and I'm finally gonna get to do this.
This is your last chance. So.
Yeah, well, never say never.
Oh.
I still have that existing threat to try and do Master and Margarita and like Monster Hearts or something, or Girl Underground. I could maybe make that work. I have to reread it. It's a very weird novel. Anyway, anybody want to start? Okay. I will. So we'll start the montage with Petya, like in this long chain of convicts, wearing his fetters, coming over a hill, and down on the great steppe below him, next to a tiny little river, is this roughly shaped palisade fort. I mean, it could be right out of the Old West in America, and this is the prison. And he's just being led in his prison uniform with his half-shaved head, and like all these really tough characters are just kind of standing around the yard staring at all the new people coming in, and probably like one of them's ribbing another, like, looks like we got another gentleman. That's how that starts.
So, historical question for the person who knows history. Russian Revolution, what would it have been like for a soldier? Would they they wouldn't get conscripted? Would they get conscripted? How did you become a soldier at that time? Like, what was the deal?
So if we're starting sometime around 1904, 1905, you would be talking about the revolution of 1904, 1905, which was kind of mostly a strike and like workers, the defense committees type of thing, that eventually turns into, oh yeah, and then the Tsar just sends a bunch of soldiers in to shoot everybody.
Cool.
At the end. So it wasn't a super revolution. Now, 1917 will be different, but
right, different. Okay, so I'm gonna talk the earlier.
Right. but like there was also a lot of it was also there was a big bourgeois liberal component too. So like planning commissions and that sort of thing, that's totally a thing that could happen too.
No, I think that the vignette that I want to paint is that we see Kostya, and he is marching with strikers. He's, he's not trying to hide the fact that he's not working class. He's trying to be like, yeah, no, I am also here. And there's sort of a cut to a moment of, violence where police or military or somebody has been sent in to get people to go back to work. And he steps between somebody that is striking and the authority figure in the room. And we see him like go down. We see him like get hit and knocked down and beaten for it. The negative tag that I've taken for him is now rash.
You're muted, Kat.
Come on, my creatives, create.
We're going for 1915 right now is when we're back.
No, we're starting in 1904 and the time skip ends in 1914.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We got like multiple vignettes to
Yeah.
get through that. I vote for Lilya. I think this is like the aftermath of the protest that Petya has been taken away. I think like her wound has like healed up, but she's got this like rather wicked looking like scar kind of like going down from her head, and it looks off, and I think like looks off there so much that I think like as soon as like Ruslan has come back, she kind of like almost like not demand, or kind of demands like another photo shoot just to be like, okay, this has something changed, because it feels like something has changed, and I think like she gets the results back, and it's like it's like she can see from the photographs that she's like she doesn't look happy, and she doesn't know why, and she can't like figure it out. And I think like that's kind of like where this the new like intense tag pops up. It's like I think she's just like more um um forceful with things now, and she like tries to like figure out where to go now that Petya is gone.
I think one thing that happens is that Ruslan comes back and sees first and foremost like the violence of the moment that scarred Lilya, and then the continued violence that like grips the country, and reacts very like disbelievingly. I think that there's a part of him that never thought that such things could that unrest was all well and good, but that it would blow over, and to see it continuously not has stirred up a much more turbulent kind of perspective within him. He's of an age where he would have also been conscripted and would have also been sent to war, but I think that one of the things that we see are just very intense letters back home to tell his mother to be careful, to tell his aunts to try to protect their interests, to even almost certainly probably to try to start to talk down to and like try to baby Lilya and say, please, like take care of yourself, look what happened. And they come from a place of care, of trying to like protect the the dreams that he has of being safe and being secure and like being untouched by the things that continue to happen, but that increasingly it feels much more like a facade, and that changes his melancholy into a turbulence of nature that finds him oscillating between a bright and cheery disposition, but that swings wildly back and forth between demands for control and assertiveness.
I think the thing you see for Sioma is the view of him in Switzerland with Yegor, which lasts for a few years, and he's struggling to write. The first few plays he finishes after he does like a series of short one acts after arriving in Switzerland and sends them back, and they're poorly received. And then he gets a terrible case of writer's block after 2 successes in Russia, a bomb, and then constantly struggling. And he keeps insisting to people that it's just, he feels very cut off from Russia, which is like he remembers that his uncle stopped writing after he left Russia. And he struggles to write a novel. He struggles to do some poetry. But really, it's all about his sense of guilt. Not to Pyotr, to Yegor. It feels like he's ultimately just going to have to eventually tell Yegor what happens, and he's dreading what happened, and he's dreading Yegor's reaction. But I think they're already talking about when they're going to return to Russia.
Is it one of those things where they keep having arguments about when they're going to leave?
I think there's arguments about when they're going to leave, whether they should go back together, whether they should go back separately, what's going on, things like that.
So I got a quick glimpse of Petya sometime later. It's summer now, and he's out on his work detail, and it's clear like he's struggling to keep up, and like all the other prisoners are just don't regard him well because he's soft and but there's this particularly obnoxious guard. It's like, it would be a short vignette, but you could like just see he's like a strutting guy, and he just relishes his power over the prisoners, and he starts smacking down this old guy, this like little wizened old peasant guy, and Petya, in a moment of impetuosity, runs up and puts himself in the way of the blows, and of course takes one, and we just cut to a scene later where he's being drummed out into the courtyard, tied up against a cart, and starts to get flogged. But the last scene is him being like dragged back with like his arms over 2 orderlies, but like all the prisoners are staring at him now with a little bit of respect.
I think we see Lilya. I think it's like winter time, and she's come back home with like a whole bunch of books and papers, because this is like a couple of years now trying to like not kind of reconstruct or like kind of keep Petya's writings out there in life. I think she has like put out some of it under the pen name that he used, but like it's not a perfect kind of like recreation, because I don't think she was the best at paying attention to what he actually wrote, and I think she's like getting like frustrated, and at the same time here at the house, like her mom is there kind of like just upbraiding her about, surely it's time to go get married now. This is getting ridiculous. And I think like your mom's making all the arguments to get married, like you're losing out on your youth, you're pining over this man who's probably dead, and if he wasn't dead, he might as well be. Um, you're freezing out. And sure, look, just and I think like Iran pulls out and thought maybe this is not if this is like a bit much. Her ultimate trump card, which is I'm not long for this world, so you're be, you should go take care of yourself. Because I can't anymore. I can't soon. Um, and I think that gets to Lilya. So I think like the next last bit we see the vignette is like I don't know if Ruslan's still around, but uh, she'll probably just like find him and be like, okay, is there just find me someone who I could just marry just to say I could. Like just, a warm body. That's good enough.
If Daphne, let me know if this is chill with you or not. But I think the vignette I'd like to offer is like springtime, Kostya sitting outside with Lilya, like reading to her from some book and chatting with her, and then another moment of them sitting by a fire inside with her mom, like, and some other family members. And I don't think from the flashback it looks like anything more than like companionship and what have you. I'm leaving the door open for like whatever we decide to do, but I think it's clear that like that moment where he charged after her in the street meant something to him, and that she is important to him going forward.
I'm absolutely down for that. God.
I think we see Semyon and Yegor eventually return to Russia. And if it's okay with you, Kostya, what he's pitching you, you're probably going to have to edit significantly for official purposes, is a play called Hagiography, which is a set of overlapping thematic tales about the dark interior lives of recent saints in the Russian Church. It's very Freudian in a sort of like repressed violence and desire sort of way, and does not make any of the saints look good. You're probably going to have some firm conversations with him at some point. It's not going to do well, but it certainly is going to upset church people, which is good for sales in some quarters. Also, potentially good for Russia. Oh, and I think one of the details about the play is it will end with the Orthodox who were run down by we're going to call them Cossacks, but we in the play we call them the Guard. At the demonstration where Lilya lost her, Lilya was injured and Petya committed the murder.
I think I've also got something for Kostya. And Fina, tell me if this is like not down for it, but I think that Ruslan and Konstantin have not seen each other for a couple of years. their obligations have taken them here, there, and everywhere, have kind of like split them apart. And though there were the letters and there was the, you know, like hope and dreams of reconciliation, I think the first time that they meet is because their paths have crossed in like a tiny little town somewhere north of Moscow. And they have like the reunion that they had always talked about, the reunion that they had been, you know, opining to each other in very, very heavily veiled letters. And I think that the thing is that though Ruslan goes through the motions of it all, there is definitely a sense that something has changed, and that the way that Ruslan wrote about it in his diary afterward was that it was the same body, but it was as though someone else inhabited it. And I don't know that I knew that person. And that deeply disarms me.
I think it's back to me. Okay, so there's this scene with Petya walking out into the prison courtyard, still in his uniform, but he heads into the blacksmith shop, and for the first time in 6 years, the fetters are struck off his legs. He comes walking back out wearing a civilian jacket, and some of the prisoners shake his hand. Like, there's this one little guy who's clearly been like a servant to him in the place. They're talking as the gates open and he steps outside, and he's just standing alone on the step because his prison term is done, but he's still exiled from Russia. But a cart rolls by, and the carter clearly knows him from around the prison, so he hops in, and we cut to the scene where he's out on the farm, like helping out in a field, and this is a family that's clearly has some indigenous Siberian ancestry. They're barely half Russian, and there's this one fat, kind of plump little peasant's daughter, and she's always taking little shy glances at him while he's leaning on his wooden pitchfork. And then cut to a scene where he's sitting in a field and he's got a chalkboard up behind him with Russian letters on it, and these little kids, and they're like laughing at him, and he's laughing back as he's trying to get them to write something down. And the girl comes running up and hands him a letter. With trembling hands, he opens it, and there's there's a document with a seal on it, and he's just clutching it, staring at it, because it's lifting his exile so he can return to Russia. And he just absentmindedly places an arm over her shoulders. I am not that tough an act to follow.
I was going to say, so I think I need a history lesson as well. So a part of the timeline is that this particular conflict, the revolution, like it resolves, right? And then we're heading towards like a time of relative peace.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the revolution of 1905 only takes part of 1905, and then there's a period of sort of political stability where there's a tiny bit of democratization in Russia, and it's that long last summer of the long 19th century as we cruise towards August 1914 and the outbreak of World War I, which, for a quick review, starts with the Archduke Ferdinand, the heir to the Austrian-Hungarian throne, getting assassinated in Sarajevo in the end of June. Austria issues a very stern ultimatum to Serbia that's essentially an annexation order. Russia, which considers itself the over-guarantor of all Slavic security, gets shirty about it. Russia is allied with France. France is sort of allied with Britain. Germany immediately says, we will back Austria, fucking full of the hilt, dudes. And in July, Russia mobilizes, which makes the crisis go even worse. And then the Austrians invade, the Russians declare war, and the Germans start to invade France, and they go through Belgium, and Britain was the guarantor of security for Belgium, so they enter the war. That's how it happens. It happens in about 5 weeks, late July, August, which for us Russians is early July to the end of July, because we're 2 weeks behind because they haven't switched to the Gregorian calendar yet. That's why the October Revolution happens in November.
Sounds good. I think then like a third vignette that we see is this happens in 1912, and it's after things have kind of settled down a bit more for Ruslan, but his very like exacting nature has manifested much more, and we see actually that he's at a dig site somewhere north near Siberia, building what is ostensibly supposed to be like a very opulent new building for some very rich man. And as he's going through, he's with a foreman, and he starts to yell at the workers there who are not building things to his exacting specifications. And through all of this, there is a cry about they fired on the rioters, they fired on the rioters. And as it turns out, the news quickly spreads that there has been a massacre of the Russian army firing on a crowd of striking miners. The deaths are dozens and dozens of people. The words flittering around. It's like, old, so-and-so is dead, so-and-so has been shot, so-and-so has been killed. And through all of it, Ruslan looks around and says, the deaths will be reported in the obituaries. Why are you not continuing your work? This pillar will not stand itself.
How do we follow that, you guys?
This has never been a crowd that's had trouble one-upping each other. I haven't even written a letter yet, for God's sake.
Yeah, right. I think
letters.
I think we see, a bunch of sort of quick shots of Kostya, at little organizing meetings in smoky basements and writing letters furiously at his desk. And half the letters are, to people whose names we don't necessarily know or have maybe like repeated themselves in some of the organizing scenes beforehand. And then the other half are split between writing to Ruslan and writing to Lilya. And the letters that we see sort of, flashing across the screen to Ruslan are talking about the feverishness of his awakening and how he can no longer stand by and allow these atrocities to continue. He hasn't even been to the ballet in months. He hasn't really spoken to his brother. He's, out on this horrible limb and doesn't know what comes next. And his letters to Lilya are him speaking of how he longs for a world that is safe enough for her to inhabit and that is equitable and caring enough that that no one will have to struggle or die in the street like a dog. Yeah.
We're gonna have so many fights about that. It's gonna be so glorious.
Kostya, where are as you withdraw from the ballet? I wish I could make a ballet pun there, but I lack the skill. As you withdraw from the
As you
ballet,
pirouette out of the ballet, I don't know.
as you pirouette from ballet, I think Sioma has gone into the future a bit and has borrowed a note from Gertrude Stein where I write things called plays, but they're really just long prose pieces. That are I don't even mean closet dramas that are formatted as plays. I mean essay/novels that are labeled plays. That have no clear line breaks. It's a where are you having unlicensed? Where are we getting unlicensed staged readings? I mean, they're clearly in the city because there's no point in like taking these to Europe to read them. But they're not. I don't think they would be in theaters.
Yeah, no, I think we're reading them like salon style in
Mhm.
people's living rooms. Like we're just like sitting on the floor with a couple of our friends, like reading through them.
I'm sure there is at least one staged in a brothel, and several staged in taverns. Dogs. There, and I think there are several small sort of like let's make a little money pieces that comedies that I put completely unlike anything Sioma has done before. Let's make some money comedies written under pen names that are going into like public theater pieces that are just the lowest form, like not the lowest. That's terrible. It is the most basic form of comedy. Their body, they're ribald, they're designed to make everybody laugh hysterically, without ever doing anything that can quite justify sensorial blocks, and written under pen names so that no one will associate the recently chastised and censured playwright.
Yeah, trying to think of my last vignette for Lilya.
Wedding.
I was getting onto that. I think like these letters that she's getting from Kostya, I think she responds to them in a way that's kind of a bit manipulative. I mean, like um, as much as we wish for this a safe and caring world, the only times those exist is when people who care about each other are close to each other, and we have not been as close as perhaps a world that we wish for warrants. And if I am to be honest, I wish to be as close to people as possible. I have not been close to anyone in so long. Um, and yeah, so she essentially proposes marriage to Kostya, and and I think like when we see like Lilya can like send this off like, and then she just like, straight up proposes in the letter, like and when they talk about it, I think she has this like look of like this frozen kind of like not frustration, but like just um yeah, no, this is gonna cause chaos. Um, like I think she's got like there's this look of like just like frozen kind of resignation of like I'm making the best of what I have, and um and at least with Kostya he has professed some affection, and that's better than most people. um and I think as she does that, as like I think that's her justifying to herself, like um saying that, and she thinks like, oh, if he says no, I could find some military man, I guess they seem easy enough, but like yeah, I think like she'll send off the concept to like talk about it.
I think that's all of this, huh? All right. Let's 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 just let's just do this novel chapter a hot August day, or late July. Probably the papers are still barking out the headlines of a couple days ago that the war has started and the Tsar is calling up more men. And I mean, I know I'm gonna meet I am gonna meet Sioma. And we could start with that, Richard, because I know you're time constrained, but
Yeah, let's start with that because I will need to leave fairly soon. So
yeah. So what I'm thinking is that maybe you're in one of the more disreputable parts of Moscow, going to a like bookstalls or something.
I feel like we are definitely about to stage one of those weird readings at a Bolshevik meeting.
Menshevik, surely. Come on,
Oh
man.
no, definitely the Bolsheviks. This is the Yegor has taken on the is
Oh, okay.
preparing his anti cat. You there?
Yeah. I'm here.
Okay, yeah. Is preparing us and foreshadowing the anarchist Bolshevik split. So we are definitely a group of I've definitely assembled a group of anarchists to go do this reading.
Okay. Yeah, because Sioma is at best a Menshevik. Honestly, not really even that.
Oh, he's the world's worst anarchist.
Yeah.
He's anarchist for a boyfriend.
So I think you look up and you see a guy, sallow, sunken cheeked, maybe with a couple days of beard on him, wearing a kind of big newsboy cap and a old suit. Come on, Shadow, no, don't step on the dock. With his hands jutting in his pockets, and you realize with a start that it's Petya, who you haven't seen in 10 years. And he probably looks up at the same minute and sees you and clearly doesn't know if he's going to run or what.
Oh, I'm having the same reaction. I have no idea whether I'm going to run. This is a question for you and Sfina. Is Yegor there? Or is Yegor on some other errand business?
I mean, I could go either way. I think there is a strong chance that Yegor is with you a lot.
Let's do this as a duet to start, and then
Yeah.
you have free
Yeah.
license to jump in if you feel like it's appropriate.
Yeah, and
Yeah, because Yegor being there means that I can't just casually walk away because you will want to talk to
Right.
Piotr.
I think before you can, though, Petya crosses over briskly with the determined stride that you're maybe even a little surprised because he does not look like he has that kind of energy, and he just jabs his hand at you and Semyon Semyonovich. But it's how
Kenovisov,
strange to run into you.
how are you here? I gesture
Yes.
around to this kind of Bolshevik. I don't think this is a big public meeting. This is a small sort of thing they probably thought they were doing relatively secret. I know the Bolsheviks sort of borrowed secret society strategies for meetings when they weren't doing big public meetings.
Holds up a bag with some loose cabbage and I'm buying dinner.
I glance in the direction Yegor is standing but has not seen us yet and say, we can certainly take you to dinner.
That
And
reminds me.
I think anybody watching perhaps, outside would be immediately see the look in my eyes like, why did I just say that?
That reminds me. And he reaches into his pocket, pulls out a grubby handful of coins and starts counting them very carefully and then hands you 50 kopecks. I owed you for that tobacco. And it's very clear when he says that, he thinks he owes you quite a lot more, but he's not saying anything.
I press it back into your hand.
I won't accept charity. I've lost enough dignity over the last few years, I think, that you can accept this.
Then it is a deposit on the dinner with something resembling meat that we will get.
My apartment is close by. Pray come
Oh, I
and
thought
take
we
a
could
tea. Pray come take a glass of tea with me.
I should get back fairly soon.
I will not detain you.
Of course.
So down a few dusty streets, it's like a very back alley, back
Yeah.
staircase, wooden, a decrepit kind of building. It's one of those places like it's Moscow in the summer. Everything is coated in dust. It's hot. The sun is up for like 19 hours a day at this point, more.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, we're past midsummer, so it may actually get to true night at this point, but a lot of the night is just going to be twilight. And he unlocks the door to this little room. It's just a couple of rooms because it's the 19th century, so even tiny apartments are much bigger than you'd expect. But and there's maybe an icon hanging in the corner that clearly came with the apartment because the lamp's not lit, and
Oh yeah.
there's a tiny travel samovar bubbling in a corner, and he puts the bag with his groceries down and says, "One moment," and steps through the door, and you hear him talking, and then he finally comes out with this plump peasant-looking girl and says, "Semyon Semyonovich, this is Efima Kuzmichina. She's my wife." He says it like with a challenging tone.
I think the subtitles are or the thought bubble in the comic version is like, "Thank God I did not ask about Lilya."
And there's a commotion. So Efima, who's just been completely silent, goes back and comes back out with a plump little boy. And for a moment, the first time, you see a little tenderness on Petya's face, like, "Soroshik, how are you? Pay attention to your mother. Mind her."
This is your son?
Yes.
I get down on one knee and look in the face and shake his hand, and
He's very solemn and very, as the writers of the day would have said, Asiatic.
he has the look of a poet. I turn to Petya and say,
Poet or a peasant, they're all the same.
well, that is what literature will pay you.
Efima has again silently brought a little tray out with tea and honey and a little jar of like jam, but it's all crusted and crystallized on the edge. It's clear that this is like absolutely the best we can do. How have you been? Did you finish medical school?
I graduated.
Congratulations, doctor.
The things we do to impress people. I
Well,
say, completely oblivious to the irony.
it's at least a practical skill. I found that I was able to gain no small reputation as a veterinarian for a brief period of time in the camp. It just that a little offhanded "in the camp" kind of hangs in the air.
I am glad to see you survived.
Huh. He takes his tea by holding a sugar cube in between his teeth and drinking the tea around it, which is it's a very peasant thing and not something you'd seen him do before. Because that way you can take the sugar cube out and put it on the tray and it will last for a while.
I take mine with no sugar, just because of the awkwardness of now of having sugar.
I didn't know you took it the Chinese style.
I have developed a taste for the unsweetened when I was in Switzerland. Yegor went and had the discussion you suggested with comrades in Switzerland.
Did he now? Well, good for him. And he's like clearly kind of like trying. And Tatiana Dmitrievna as well? It's like so dancing around subjects right now.
Tatiana, what is Tatiana up to? Is Tatiana still editing? Is she with us? Is she?
I think she's recently retired. But but that was like only recently. Because like she'll be what, 56 now? Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think well, she says she's retired, but oh, actually, yeah, I think she's retired. I think she's been kind of been like forced out of the reflection. I think still going on. It's not the same.
She retired, but you know how Tatya is. She is threatening to start another journal of her own.
It had better be patriotic, I suppose.
I think the problem is it will not be.
My apologies for not having visited Semyon Ruslanovich, but well, as you might guess, I haven't had a chance to get new visiting cards published. And the way he says visiting cards is just so obviously like kind of the kind of thing he would have picked up from his fellow prisoners.
I have not spoken to Semyon Ruslanovich in some time.
Well, I'm
As the French
sure
might say, we are estranged.
I find that surprising because I am sure I would now outrank you in the disappointment category. And I would have thought that would have brought you two closer.
No. I got tired of hearing the rankings in the disappointment category recited to me on every visit.
Yeah, so it was rather like a perpetual final exam.
Oh, no, for me it was more of a lecture.
Yes, well, from what I can see, you were not counting on your room and board.
I was fortunate that Yegor's aunt, well,
Jaeger, yes.
Yegor's aunt, well, left him some money. It turns out that abstraction is not something that the Tsarists are terribly fond of. And performing shows in brothels is...
C'est beau d'avoir un vrai compagne et camarade. Eh? And like speaking French, it's very clear for a second he falls back into something that he hasn't felt in a long time, and then kind of just, well, I'm probably keeping you.
They will start without me, but I do
No,
like
of course.
see the
Very clearly, like the awkwardness has now tipped the scale. So he like helps you out of your chair, walks you to the door. Then you're almost through. You're like almost out. You can see the staircase beckoning, and he's got a hand on your back and a comradely gesture, and he just yanks it back and goes, and Lilya Viktorovna.
Do you not know?
I've had no chance to catch up on the social news since I returned.
Lilya Viktorovna and Konstantin Velesievich are married.
And it's been a good match.
It has been a peaceful match. They both, I believe, or understand, it is, you will know it's a difficult thing to talk about, that it has worked to their advantage.
Well,
But
of
I
course.
don't think it is as the modern use might go, a romantic one.
Well, of course, the happy. And like he starts switching into different languages to try and like. Obviously, he's maybe trying to conceal what he says from Ephema. Le bonheur, you understand? Le bonheur de son mariage. It's wichtig. It's important to me, of course. I'm happy that she's glücklich and
She would like to see you, I'm certain.
and he freezes like he's been pole waxed. Well, I'm not convinced that an appropriate occasion should arise, but of course I would be happy to pay my honorable respects. She wrote me long after I was unable to respond. Sent me books. After the commandant started to allow us to have books, they were very useful to me. They were.
My understanding is she wrote you fairly often.
Well, it was very difficult. I was quite ill after I got 50 blows, and then another 100 because it was not considered that I had learned my lesson. This was probably illegal, but technicalities don't matter. I'm out for much. That far from Omsk. Yes, well. It's strange that one becomes so dependent on a mere drop of water when one is marooned in a desert, but bring a man home where he can have a pitcher by his bed whenever he wishes it, and things rapidly decrease in importance, perhaps. Well, if you see her, I suppose you should send your regards. Perhaps don't tell her where you found me, because this is not a fit place for such a lady as she. Well, good luck with whatever your burlesque tonight. Very glad to have met you. Good to see you. I shall call upon you again. And it's just sort of like one of those awkward, very Russian novel, pushing you out the door. You're both.
I tell him where to find us, and then again I have that flash of like, why did I do that? Why do I keep doing this? And as I turn to walk down the street, I have this kind of internal monologue about how I'm amazed at my ability to feel both more and less guilty at the same time.
I think by the time you hit the foot of the stair, too, you can hear voices being raised in the apartment and the cries of a little boy. Thank you, Richard. That was
awkward.
That was maybe our most Russian thing ever. As I said last time, we have managed to start doing Dostoevsky Society one run late.
Like, wealthy woman marries wealthy gay is an old story that could happen anywhere in the world.
I think
this was a clearly Russian moment.
It's the awkwardness. We've been really doing well at awkward stuff this one. So
yeah.
And Dostoevsky is like the poet of awkward bullshit. Anywho, somebody else go. If you need Richard, now's the time to grab him.
Yeah, Richard, is there anything else that you want to do before you leave?
I think that is good for, like, I don't have another thing I need.
Just wanted to make sure before somebody jumps on something they want from you that you get.
Yeah, I don't have anything I need to do. I don't think I've had an on-screen conversation with Ruslan, but I can't think of a good reason that we should have one right now.
How about a gossip stash? I ran into Petya, and I can tell you because I can't tell any of those other two lunatics.
Well, also, if you discover I'm like doing weird readings at awkward social events, that might be a photographical, that might be something you want to photograph.
I mean, I could definitely do that. I wonder, like, it's been like 10 years, and I think we were probably not close before, but like the flip side of this is that we could alternately have become pretty close, pretty chummy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and actually, like, I may be using you as like a proxy emotional connection away from the man who married my cousin. So if you're down for that, we could totally play
Because
that.
I don't think, I think I knew about you and Kostya, but I assumed it was an entirely mutual, completely unawkward breakup.
Listen, I'm sure that Kostya led you to believe that, and I'm sure that
So
I
the
was
knowledge that
too.
Petya is back may be important. It may be especially important for any machinations you
Oh,
want
you
to
could
sort of-
definitely give me that bullet, and I could load that in clip. So
Or Daryl, with you, I always just give you a vial.
Ooh, yeah, I at some point want a flashback as to what that breakup looked like, but we can do that later.
Yeah. Do I just have dinner with you and your new wife? Or your, at this point, possibly long-term wife?
I mean, oh, you could totally do that. Someone would have to claim said wife. I think she's kind of
I
the
was
wife.
thinking oh yeah, we could do a group dinner, or we could just be having brandy afterwards. Either way.
I'm fine either way. The wife I think is actually pretty delightful. She's definitely, I feel like I used to play a character who usually props other people up. I've made specifically a prop for myself this time, and she's got a lot of feelings about that.
Wait. Yeah, you've got that third one.
Yes,
All
no
right.
one has claimed, yeah, no one's claimed Great Aunt Sophia.
I think
But
somebody
Vera,
is waving. I think someone named Catherine is waving about playing Vera.
I mean, actually, so also Vera is, and you can jettison this. I tried to keep in like the context of it. I do technically have Vera being Fyodor's very distant cousin.
The Karavasovs are a large family. Oh my god, she's another Dostoevsky heroine. Well, I mean, I'd like to play her, but
I'd play her, but I'm going to be probably in the room with her at some point, so I'm skipping it.
Yeah.
I can do this. I can just be like, I can never actually see Petya. I don't think she knows Petya's back.
Oh no, this is
Probably
my.
not.
I think you were the
Yeah.
only two people I can talk to about
Right.
this, because
Not only that, I think it's been extremely hard for her to say much about him ever since, he got sentenced to hard labor as a political prisoner for assassinating a rich landowner in the middle of a ballet interval. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
I
you
think
can't
Yegor
talk about
knows,
it.
but I'm not talking to Yegor much about it, other than trying to look happy. I have not asked Yegor what Yegor actually thinks himself. I'm too nervous to find out. So I'm talking to the two of you about it.
Okie dokie. How familiar is Vera with Ruslan's predilections?
Oh
And
gosh.
is Ruslan gay and getting married, or is he somewhere on the weak to strong bisexual scale? I mean, like our disaster queers Timothy.
I think he's probably closer to Timothy. I think that in the worst way possible, that this was not just a marriage of convenience for Ruslan, but that he genuinely thinks that he'll grow to love Vera at some point. He very much respects her, likes her, enjoys spending time with her. And it's like, if we just spend enough time together, I'll like this, right? Like, that's how this works, right?
This will be great if we
I
spend
think
enough time.
I have this sort of acid-friendly relationship with Constantine.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think
Constantine, we're so glad you came yet again. How wonderful to see you. Why, this must be the third time this week. Please, pray sit down.
that being said, actually, a couple of things. I don't know that Ruslan is continuing to have an affair with Constantine. I think
Yeah, I
that
don't.
might have I think that's killed off, actually. And I don't know that Ruslan has consciously told you about Constantine. I think you're just good at picking up what I was putting down, and we've never spoken about it.
She talked to the other girls in Moscow, and they're like, well, but he's okay, and he's got some money, and you're how old again? And she's like, this is all of these are excellent points.
As an artist, he has access to Bohemian society.
Yes. Well,
He
then
also may have been stripping the ballet guy.
Yeah, well, I'm aware of these things.
And when they split, they both turned into absolute disaster gays all over Moscow.
Yep. Okay, cool. So what are we doing? Is it like after dinner, or have you just
I
dropped
think
by
like
for
after
tea?
dinner with brandy.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
after the brandies, if we're back together. How unfortunate that we don't have a fourth, dear Ruslan. We could play whist or contract bridge or something of the sort.
Darling, you know that I can't stand those games. You always beat me unless I have the luck to be partnered with you.
If we only could patriotically play that German game Pinochle. We can play that with three.
We might all be sent up to Siberia if we were to play that.
I don't think it's as bad as that. I can't believe that His Highness would. I mean, everyone says the war will be over very quickly. We are sending an enormous army west. The Germans will have to fight on two fronts. Everyone says that either the Germans will win outright in France, or we will grind them to dust, and it will be over by Christmas. Which is good. I'd hate to have to see you get called up. Although, I have to say you would look quite dashing in an Ulan's uniform.
I think when you brought
Even
up
the waist.
Siberia is when you saw Syoma freeze. He was about to make the joke he always makes, where he pulls something of his off your bookshelf and talks about like being in trouble for reading subversive literature. He really loves to flatter himself with that.
Am I familiar with you, Syoma?
Oh, yeah.
Syoma, do you know that his waist is thinner than mine, at least unlaced? I've seen him in some of my Muslim gowns, and he looks quite fetching in those as well. But I think an Ulan's jacket would look much better on you, my dear boy. And a cavalry saber, you could swing it around.
He smiles.
Vera Vyalyevna, that is not something that we are supposed to talk about, even if it is merely in front of Syoma.
Syoma's family, dear. We must certainly have someone that we can let our hair down around.
It is nice to have someone else carry our secrets every once in a while.
He puts the book down and then turns to you, Vera, and says, I saw your cousin, Kadavasov.
You tell Marceline.
Sergeyevich.
Pyotr Sergeyevich?
Pyotr Sergeyevich, your distant cousin, I'm certain.
I knew that my petition had finally been accepted by the Tsar, but I had not realized he'd been given permission to return to Moscow.
He has returned to Moscow. We did not talk about his legal standing. And of course, we don't discuss legal standing.
Well,
polite Bohemian company.
He must be in need, I suppose. Ruslan Borisovich, could you not give Syoma some 100 or 200 rubles to bring to my dear cousin?
My dearest, it is entirely unacceptable to be laundering money to those who would seek to cause a derision amongst our people, even if they have earned their way towards their freedom.
He has learned his lesson. You should have read some of the letters he sent me. They were very spiritual. I forwarded them to the Marshal of Nobility from our old district. That's one of the reasons his petition was granted.
Yes, dear. I also remember the letters that he sent to me on the very rare occasion that I would write him to see if he had reformed his ways. He was still very stubborn and very decided about how he saw this country.
I'm sure that his conditions caused a distorting effect.
Syoma, do you think that he was reformed? Do you think that he will be a good man to help build our country forward? Would a couple hundred rubles have actually helped him to establish himself, to build a better version of who he was before? I do recall, it has been very long, but I do recall that the gentleman that he was very contrary in every sense of the word.
He is married.
What?
We're married, you say?
Married.
Pyotr Sergeyevich married? What? He used to quote from me constantly from What Is to Be Done and telling me that it was a bourgeois institution.
Where did he find such a
married
wife, smashing
to
rocks and...
a Siberian.
Oh my gosh. She just
They have-
fans herself. Oh my goodness.
They have a child.
What?
Child?
I think Pyotr
Right.
loves the child. I say very intentionally.
I should hope he does, but
I know. You'll note who I left out.
Oh, but how old is the child?
I say I think whatever I think the child's name is.
3.
3. But I very intentionally say Pyotr loves the child, and I don't say anything else. Quite affectionately.
Ruchik, cher Ruslan. Can we not talk
Sir.
about having a child again?
Oh.
my dear,
Think how lovely it would be that we'd have a nursery and that English governess that used to work for the Sverkayevs. She's very good. You always liked to see her when we'd meet them in the park.
yes, she was lovely and her French was impeccable and she had quite the aristocratic air, but you know that I travel just too much and that I do wish to be a presence in our child's lives.
He asked
Why?
about.
You're a good Russian gentleman. You don't need to do anything outlandish like that. I'll take care of the boy. We'll have a governess and a governor and a math teacher and a dance instructor. Oh, and we can have a pony.
Of all the things I think you said, the dance instructor is the most outlandish. I would sooner give them a pony than a dance instructor.
It is possible that the presence of a father in someone's young formative years is.
Well, I don't know, Sioma. I haven't heard anything about the relationship between you and your father that indicates this is a strong indication of a character.
I was going to say that I think it's perhaps overrated.
Yes. There you have it then. Well, there you have it then. So it's settled.
Pyotr is asked about Lilya Viktorovna. I told her she was married now, of course, much like
Oh
he.
my goodness. Really? Interesting. I would have.
They were very close at one time, and I think.
I am well
Very close.
aware of how close they were.
Oh, well, yes.
Well, I would have. But you said he's married.
He is married, and he seems. Yes, he's married.
Married, bringing a wife and a child back to the city after so long. Tell me, Sioma, in addition to have sat on that through the entirety of dinner, how have you told Lilya? Have you told Konstantin of these?
I have not mentioned it even to Yegor. I mean, Yegor knows that he has returned. We've not had an extended conversation.
Is this meant to be a confidence that we should not betray, Sioma?
I don't really know.
That is all the permission I need then to call upon Lilya tomorrow afternoon and to make sure that she is well aware of it.
Not without me. I know how you get. Especially around Konstantin Vasilyevich.
Truly, this is not for Constantine. This is for Lilya. You know that she held a certain tenderness in her heart for him for such a long time.
He's the reason she has a scar. I feel ashamed around her all the time. I was just
Oh,
so lucky she was able to get married.
Do you not ever tell her I said this, but I swear she wears that scar as a badge of honor.
Lilya is one of those girls who never quite came out, even after she came out. You know what I mean? She sort of just blundered into getting married. She, as a thing to do to shut her mother up. She had no idea of how to accomplish it. Trust me, it's a very complicated affair. One must marshal one's resources. One does not have time to simply fall into things unless you're lucky and you happen to have some handsome young gentleman swoop in on you, which is what happened to me, of course.
Oh, nonsense, my dear. You were the blessing that was delivered upon my doorstep.
It's true. You're very lucky to have me.
I am indeed. However, I do think that it is very important that we speak with Lilya Viktorovna soon to let her know of these upcomings. It would be so unfortunate if she were to happen upon the news out and about. I think it would practically shake her dead.
It would also be unfortunate if he were to suddenly appear to her. And it just out of the blue, as if he's been carrying this around for 10 years. He just says, you know, I lied on the stand.
I'm sorry.
They
I'm
called
sorry.
me.
Could you perhaps repeat that in French? What did you just say?
I lied at his trial. I said I could not see who shot that damned real estate.
I see.
I think Ruslan becomes like very stern, sets his glass down and walks across the room and grips your arm and says,
I saw exactly who shot him. I could not mistake that walk, that stride.
Semyon Semyonovich, I think it is very important that you be very particular about what you do or do not say at this moment.
Yes, well. He downs his brandy and thank you both for the wonderful dinner. My compliments to your cook.
Oh, yes. She's lovely. Georgian.
Well, I think that most of the best cooks in Moscow are Georgian.
I would have preferred French, but she came well recommended, and her flan is astounding.
Yes. Thank you for the lovely occasion. I am afraid I must be going. I'm feeling suddenly, well.
Of course, it's late. I feel it too. It's the ridiculousness of the hours. It's so light outside.
I will have those photos developed and sent over to you for immediate review. I think they would go lovely with an article about your new readings.
I appreciate it. I truly appreciate it. I hope to challenge the notion of drama as belonging in places designated as theater.
I think on your way out for the second time that day, you hear the voices raised in the room that you just left as the couple starts yelling at each other.
Well, having thrown 2 hand grenades, I must leave. Well, I only threw 1 hand grenade. One hand grenade got handed. One slow ticking.
But you gave the hand grenade to someone else. You were just like,
yeah. I got a slow ticking hand grenade, which I somehow still have with me, but then also handed to somebody else.
Guys, look it.
Thank you, Richard, for giving us your time tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of digging that this is the Good Society all novel chapters.
It's all novel.
We don't need any of that other shit
Yeah,
anymore.
we usually leave that to the last session. We're like, oh, just every session. Let's just...
Well, we're technically only in the first cycle now.
So
Honestly,
I caught that one.
you
I
know,
was like listening to the second episode, and you were all like, "Oh, we're gonna wait on doing novel chapters until Daryl's back," and I was like, "Oh, okay, great." And now like Richard's gone. I was like, "We're waiting on the letters."
Letters. Yeah.
I mean, we could technically call what we did so far a novel chapter, but it feels a little light, so I was just going to continue noveling it.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Um,
Yeah, we've not seen everyone.
And you know, the climax I'm going to aim for probably is something like, oh, I don't know, Lilya and Petya at a train that he's about to get on to go to the to go to the Eastern Front. Well, for Russia, the front.
Yep.
I mean, I'm very. I'm salivating on taking that little bomb, that little grenade that Semyon just gave me,
Well, that's your.
waddling my way over to House
mean-
Ivanov.
I think we should totally do that, or contrive something. If you don't want to take Vera, that would be totally understandable.
She's gonna have way too much fun with that. She's gonna be so excited.
I mean, you could contrive to run into Constantine away from Lilya
Oh.
for totally chaste and absolutely just. I need to tell you something very important. Gosh, you working out?
Have you been working out?
Imagine just like
And your arms
we're
are
just
so
passing the,
strong.
I was just
Just
gonna
passing
go
the
into
bomb
this
back and forth.
this banya and take a sweat.
Did you hear that there's a bathhouse a street over?
But Carrie, take it away, fellas.
Take it away. Oh, Captain, my Captain.
I mean, if that is the case, I'm actually totally fine playing hot potato and delivering the news over to Constantine and like setting a like a little bit of a time bomb with it. Just be like, I think it's important that we tell Lilya. I think it would be better to come from her husband. But if you don't mention it, I think I'll mention it to her when I see her at tea in 2 days.
Not saying it's
Oh, that's
necessary, but Alexei remains on call as always to cause things to become more serious.
Oh yeah, that's good. No, feel free to throw Alexei in there anywhere. Cool. Yeah, you want to try and run into Constantine?
And so question about that, would it be so since I just kind of like low-key set a scene with Semyon, like do you want to go ahead and like set a scene that's like more advantageous to like pushing your plot forward? Because I could always think that like I'm trying to show off a little bit and invited you to like the newest property that I'm like QAing before we open the doors or whatever. But
yeah, let's see. What do I want to do for Constantine? Oh, I know. I have a great idea. You drop in to visit Constantine, and Constantine is having a full-on fight with his brother. You have to come back to the opera. You're, disgracing our father's legacy by working on these smutty little films or these smutty little plays.
I think it's even more embarrassing because when Constantine when Ruslan comes in, he like passes down the hallway to the office and Alexei's very plump wife, his kind of thin and pale daughter Fyodora, and his son who's dressed in a army officer's uniform are kind of just sitting there listening to this. And
they're just sitting outside the room.
Just looking to each other from eye to eye.
So yeah, that's what you come into.
Look.
Just feel free to bust in whenever.
Look.
I'm looking.
Suppose your taste in the past, of course, but I cannot pretend that you did not understand something at the pulse of the nightlife, and we were a good team, and it was keeping the company together. And now look at us. I mean, we lost We lost that German girl who was our prima donna because she got repatriated back to Vienna. And I have nothing to replace her with. They send us these cow-eyed girls from the country who don't know a pas de deux from arabesque. And I don't even know the difference between those things half the time, but I know there's a difference. I know when I ask for one, it should look different than the other one. And you're not here, and I don't know what to do, because if you come back, we're gonna get shut down by the censors. But if you don't come back, we're gonna lose half our audience. So I am begging you, Kostya, you have to save my family. God damn it! Did you see
Kostya puts out what is clearly his 5th cigarette.
He got washed out of 3 cadet schools, and now he's an infantry officer, and you know how expensive that turns out to be.
I don't know what to tell you. I'm not coming back. I see the value in the arts, but as you said, I will wind up in Siberia. And I also have a wife and 2 children to think about. And I just don't think that you understand the nature of my position as a person who has awakened to the very realities of what is tearing our society apart.
It's your choice. Do you want to dance at your brother's panachida, or do you want to go to Siberia? Because we got to do one or the other. And also, when are you going to stop? And he uses the most horrific Russian swear word he can, but I can only translate with, when are you going to stop motherfucking play acting at being a revolutionary? Join a sensible political party. They're not illegal anymore. My God, join the cadets join the socialist revolutionaries. They're the peasants' party. They have all these intellectuals. I see them playing chess at the club all the time. Go join them. But stop going to the pipe fitters union and acting like you're proletarian, because you're fucking not. You're a Nancy Floyd ballet fan.
I'm not pretending to be proletarian. I'm trying to stand with the workers. I don't actually care which political party is in control. What I care about is that there's somebody there who can buy their way out of jail.
The workers want to cut your throat and do the same to my son, and what they want to do to Fyodora is unspeakable.
Well, I don't know what to tell you, because I personally think that it is important that someone with the capital to pay bail is standing there when these poor men are striking. Do you understand what they're working?
Oh, this is your capital now. This is your capital.
Some of it is my capital.
You spent father's inheritance decades ago.
I don't know what to tell you,
brothers in law.
It's
mine. So good to see you both. And even Ruslan just bursts through the door.
How lovely to see you, my dear sir.
Ruslan.
My dear Andre, your opinions have been noted very forcefully and clear across the room. I believe that your prima ballerina, the replacement for the one that you have just said, has been exiled. I think she's having some thoughts and opinions of her own that you might want to deal with.
Sugar just wouldn't melt on your mouth, would it, my little wood demon? Yeah, like the Rusalka, you know that, Ruslan? You just lie in wait, and when the unsuspecting walk by, you pull them under and drown them. I'm going to go talk to our prima donna. I hope she speaks Russian. I know she can't speak French.
Well, she at least knows what the difference between a pas de deux and a pirouette is. As you're walking out the door.
Like a PhD for these people.
See, unfortunately, the thing that he doesn't realize is that I am married to Vera, and that indeed, that is the nicest thing, that what he said is the nicest thing anyone has said to me all week, so.
Well, you have thicker skin than I do.
It comes from existing as we do. Although I would think that you, of all people, should be more than comfortable being verbally assailed at this point. You've made quite the name for yourself out there.
Well, I have, but my wife speaks nicely to me when I get home, and the twins are delightful.
I don't know that Lilya could speak a harsh word to anyone. I think she would sooner just collapse and die.
I do think she would actually burst into flame, yes. I've actually had to encourage her to be mad at me once or twice. Do you know that? I've done
That's
silly things and come home broken and with bloody lips and what have you, and she has simply stared at me, and I have been insistent that she must tell me how she really feels. It will be a lifelong process, I think. My wife is not forthcoming with those sorts of emotions.
She is a bit of a project. However, I have faith that you shall indeed at one point get her to utter a swear.
She came very close once. It was extremely proud. And it was, I think, only because the children had just been born and she was so tired that she lost some sort of filter. And he finally crosses the room and actually like embraces you, like gives you a hug and says, "It is good to see you. I'd say I'm sorry you heard that, but you've heard worse."
Indeed, although I will say that your brother does sound stretched beyond his usual elasticity. And I'll note to say that, like, as you embrace me, the thing that happens though is that there's a very faint, like, visage of like throwing back to the olden days where like this meant something a little bit more, a little bit different than it did. And then I slip back into the role that I have prescribed for myself.
Mm-hmm. And Kostya, as he like pulls back, you can see him note it. Like the little like tally goes up in his eyeballs. He leans back and says, "Brandy."
Of course, I didn't come here to stay sober.
He pours you a glass and he hands it to you. "Yes, indeed. I feel for him, I do. I just can't go back to business as usual, and I have the luxury of not needing to."
Would you be so kind as to explain why you feel you don't have that luxury? I know you've said it so many times, but elucidate me once more.
When we were young, I simply didn't understand how bad it was. And you know, I these political parties and politicians and quote unquote leaders, they ascribe themselves to a cause and they say that they are for the people, but as soon as they amass a little bit of power, they forget where they came from. And so my brother's point is well taken, that I could align myself with one of them and talk in cafes and maybe even get a political position appointment myself, but the actual work to be done is the scut work that doesn't have a political alignment and simply is attempting to help the people. And I know that eventually it is going to land me in far more trouble than I'm in now, but I believe in art and the power of the arts, and that is why I spend so much time anymore with Semyon Semyonovich, because he understands the way that art is to be taken, which is not at the highest possible echelons, but in bars and brothels and the streets, where people can have access to higher ideas than they could have access to at home, because the average Russian doesn't even necessarily know how to read and can't afford food, much less tickets to the ballet.
But my dear Kostya, I think that is precisely the point. You are so focused in on the practicalities of how art can communicate your meaning that you have lost sight of the practicalities of your own situation. I heard Andre ream you just now about all of the practicalities of this world that you are not listening to. Do you not think that it might be more beneficial if you were to assume a standard part of our society and then find some way to see your message put forth in a way that would not directly endanger you? Your bleeding heart is going to end you up in front of a firing squad. I think that for all his bluff and bluster, that he really cares for you and doesn't wish to see you condemned for your higher purposes. I would certainly be most upset, and I use that term amongst friends to show you how sincerely I mean it, if you were to find your way on the wrong side of history just because you felt a little too strongly, felt a little too fervently. It is possible to see what you want and to do what you want without putting your own neck on the line. Out of character, this is really fucking hard for me to say right now.
Kostya leans up against the desk and looks at you and says, "It has been a very long time since you spoke to me as though you cared for my well-being."
Konstantin Vasilyevich Ivanov, I think it is frankly insulting that you would ever imply that my estimation or my esteem of you has in any way dropped.
Well, I am not trying to imply that. I'm simply saying you haven't expressed this type of feeling in a long, long time.
Wedding vows do have a way of changing the way we express ourselves, doesn't it?
It does indeed. Doesn't necessarily mean those feelings don't still exist.
But much like your dedication to the arts, sometimes those feelings are better left in subtext.
Are they?
Speaking of our friend Semyon Semyonovich, have you
indeed.
read his latest play?
Of course, I workshopped it.
I'm doubtlessly, I'm very much looking forward to whatever he may write next. I do believe he's found some very interesting new material to work with.
Indeed. What material is that?
A new character has entered his stage. Well, maybe not a new character, but a returning character. Do you happen to remember, long time ago, 10 years or more at this point, I was away on my photography trip, and there was that gentleman, the one that always used to orbit Lilya, that renegade of a man, Pyotr Sergeyevich.
I do remember Pyotr.
Yes. Well, as it turns out, my dear wife, you know, of course, Vera. Vera is constantly sticking her nose in with things that she doesn't need to be, and trying to put change forth where she can see it forward. She's actually Pyotr Sergeyevich's cousin, I'm sure you're aware, though she hides it to a remarkable degree. And she has, for many years, been petitioning for his clemency on his exile, and it was recently granted.
He freezes. Was it?
Indeed, yes. It was the most serendipitous moment. Apparently, dear Syoma crossed paths with him at his latest speaking engagement, the one that was far up north, the one that we chose to not go to because it was, quite frankly, too cold. And they managed to meet each other, and apparently Pyotr Sergeyevich introduced him to his wife and daughter.
He's married.
Yes, I mean the surprise that I had to swallow down. I tell you, someone would marry that man. It's purely unbelievable. And yet the fiction is nonfiction. And yes, they have a daughter, and they are set to be returning to Moscow in the new season.
Oh no.
I thought it best to communicate that to you, just because I know that dear Lilya had a certain tenderness for him, and I wanted to make sure that you were properly ahead of that situation.
Ruslan, we have known each other for far too long to mince words. They were in love.
They were indeed, yes.
Oh no.
Well, after all, being in love doesn't necessarily mean that you stay with the person that you love. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. After all, you sometimes end up in a marriage of convenience, or a marriage of advantage, or a marriage of new love. And this is the point where I'm slowly inserting the knife.
Yeah, he takes a step or two towards you, like really insistently and kind of quickly, and says, "You know that it is unfair of you to cut me quite so quickly. If we lived in a perfect world, Ruslan, many things would be different for Ilya and for me, and for other people that I have loved and cared for.
Kostya, I know we have had this argument far too many times, and I know that saying this makes me positively blue in the face, because how many more times do I have to repeat myself before you hear me? How many more times do I have to repeat myself before I finally realize that you don't care? But it didn't have to be my cousin.
Who could it have been? She is lovely, she's kind, and she understands me. We understand each other.
It should have been some stupid farm girl. It should have been some social climber, someone who would leave you alone. You married someone far too smart for their own good, far too close to me for their own good. I would feel fine sneaking around behind someone's back, but I cannot feel fine sneaking around behind hers.
Well, that is your problem, isn't it? Much as you have also made it mine.
I slam my drink down, like, without finishing it. I don't even like do you the dignity of like taking a big swig to finish it off. And I say, well, I've come to deliver the news that I sought to. I've rescued you from your brother's temperament, and I judge this as a rather successful engagement, don't you? I think I shall take my leave.
My hero.
Don't even acknowledge it. I just turn and walk out. And as I pass by, actually, I pull some sweets out of my pocket and I give them to your niece and nephew, and then I depart.
Hmm. And he stands there and he lights another cigarette and he pours another drink.
Uncle Kostya, does he think we're like war?
Probably. And
I'm an infantry
then
officer, for God's sake.
I think there's a sort of a fast forwarding that occurs where it's now darker, like the light from the windows is slanted different. I look much more bedraggled. I've clearly had more to drink. There are more cigarette butts stubbed out, and I go to find Lilya.
Or do you go to find Petya?
Ooh. Yeah, I think I go to find Petya.
I can't decide if the part of Efima is supposed to be silent or not. I have put her on the list in case somebody wants to claim her. But her basic job is like, oh my God, we're back in the city. He's going to fucking leave me.
Yep. All right.
So you like find this decrepit apartment building somewhere in the back of some, fallen down tenement. Just for maximum irony, you recognize it as one of the buildings that guy Valery Filipovich built, the one that Petya shot. You're
Yes.
like, well, I hope he doesn't know that.
I'll burn it down. And I stand there and I look at them, and then there's flashback to this guy's designs, and I see it and I say, oh God, if he knew, he'd burn it down.
There's no light in the hall, but there's not even a night porter, but there is a guy who just kind of hangs around the building and does odd jobs, and he's got like a little tallow tape where he's like, Your Honor, yes, of course, are you here to see, and he gives you like a little nod. Huh?
You mean Pyotr Sergeyevich?
Oh, no, I was thinking of, no, it does not matter what I was thinking of. We have nothing but fine people here, Your Honor. Nothing but fine people, Your Honor.
He puts a hand on the man's shoulder and says, no one is going to call the police.
I just assumed you wanted to see one of the yellow card girls.
No.
Oh, well then come this way, please, with me, sir. Pyotr Sergeyevich, yes, he's a very interesting gentleman. Well, I make no judgments about people of his background.
We were childhood friends.
Yes, I had a brother who was sent off east.
I'm sorry to hear it. Did he survive?
He's gone fat and happy and raises goats now somewhere outside Tomsk.
I'm very happy that he is still with us.
Yes, well,
And fat
course.
as well.
right this way. He's at the end of the hall, sir.
He passes you a couple rubles. He doesn't even like hesitate.
Rubles.
Yeah.
You were never here, sir.
And he walks down the hallway and he knocks on the door.
Here's somebody, there's like a raised voice from behind, and then somebody stomps, yanks open the door, and there's Petya, or, the scarecrow, fever wasted version of him.
Pyotr Sergeyevich.
Konstantin Vasilievich, I'm afraid do you wish to step out? And he like closes the door partially behind him and steps into the hall. My accommodations are somewhat Spartan.
Would you like to take a walk? I have cigarettes.
One moment, please. And he sticks his head in and is like, yes, no, put him to bed. Of course. Pulls on his newsboy cap, jabs his hands into his shabby jacket pockets, like, well, let's go, and starts striding down the stairs in the dark.
I'm following him, lighting a cigarette with my cigarette, and I pass it to him as we get outside.
I've lost a taste for English tobacco.
It's good though, right?
Quite, thank you. I haven't had one of these since, well, before.
Indeed.
He's got a little bit of a jaundiced, feverish look. Like he's clearly suffered illness, probably typhoid.
Are you quite well?
City life is strangely less healthy, I think, than the countryside, but I could not resist. I couldn't come back to Moscow directly, of course.
No, I imagine not.
No, we've stayed for a while in Kazan, which was very hard, and then eventually, the local governor, I did you must know, his horse was having a difficult foaling, and I assisted and saved both the mare and the foal, and well, he was kind enough to write me another letter, and apparently that convinced the authorities in Petersburg or I should say, Petrograd, of course, to allow me to return. Inauspicious timing. Well, perhaps.
I don't think any timing for returning to Moscow would be auspicious at this point.
Oh, I used to like the city quite a lot.
So did I.
Is that place that was a couple blocks off Tverskaya? The one that served the she that was made by that old babushka?
Yes. What was her name? Alexandra.
Sasha. All right, of course.
Yes.
She's still alive.
She is. She doesn't run the business anymore.
Oh. I love, I used to buy that she just as when I had no money, but they served it to us with tripe sometimes, out near Omsk. As he continues to make little circumlocutions around when I was in prison.
Yeah.
And it made me very much appreciate the sausage and the cashews she sometimes put in there. It was so odd.
Pyotr.
Cashews and cabbage.
Pyotr.
For those of you playing at home, she is a very Russian cabbage soup that sometimes has got meat and stuff chucked in it.
Pyotr, I came to see you because I felt as though I should apologize.
For what do you owe me any apology?
And he stops like in the light.
He's trying to be way too casual with his cigarette.
He stops in the light of a gas lamp and says, "For Lilya."
Ah, yes. Yes, you married her.
I did.
I mean, I had hardly been. It was often very hard for me to get any letters, at least initially. We had our first commandant was a dreadful man, Martin, that failed major of infantry. He was very unkind, but our second commandant was a military man, and he allowed a few more things to go through. But by that point, I had had my floggings. I'd been ill several times.
If I had known you were ever going to return to Moscow, I never would have accepted.
Oh, well, of course, you were counting on me not coming home, I suppose. It was a good assumption that I would never be allowed back in. After all, I committed a terrible act.
A necessary one.
I'm sure that your perspective is easy to form in that matter, yes.
Things are different than they were when you were here.
Quite. And like without even thinking, like he just kind of rubs his head and you see his hands are now coarsened with work.
Yeah.
They're horny and there's that he always had that weird nervous energy, but it's somehow been transmuted into a weird nervous strength because there's sometimes no meat on his bones, but like you're like you have this like sudden weird feeling like this man could lift an iron bar over his head and not even think about it.
I want you to know that if you need to see Lilya or want to.
Jeez, oh whoa. I mean, I'm sure she's forgotten me.
She has not.
Why would you say such a thing to me, Constantine? What could that possibly serve either one of us?
I only tell you it because I admire you.
Admire me? What do you admire me for? Because I went to medical school. Because I wrote poetry.
No, because you always saw the world more clearly than I did.
I had much time to think. You know that? There's very little other things to do other than this. That. I mean, there's many things that must be done, but little else to do. The companionship I had was never particularly elevated. It was very hard, actually. They never considered me a comrade, though. After I took those floggings, they were much more kindly disposed to me in general. But there were no books. We were allowed the Bible, at least until later, and then some books. Some books that Lilya Viktorovna sent me eventually came my way. They were a great comfort. But no, I had time to think, especially in the winter. In the winter, they would send us out to work detail. But the rule was we had to be back in by sunset. So, of course, I had 12, 14 hours some days to think. To think or sleep or get drunk. Hey, did you know that it was relatively easy to get vodka? Strange, it was completely forbidden, but no, I thought a great deal. What is it exactly that I saw so much clearer than you, Konstantin Vasilyevich?
The world that we were living in, how stupid I was,
The world that you... Oh,
how useless my attempts at solidarity were.
and and you've come a long way since. I'm looking at your well-finished jacket and you're probably you're like flashing without even thinking about it, like a silver cigarette case.
Oh, absolutely. But I look at you and I say, probably not.
Oh well. Are you one of those people? Are you one of those people who admire me because I killed a man?
No.
Good. So it was a stupid thing to do.
It was a youthful and stupid thing to do.
But why was it stupid? Constantine. Cher Constantin,
Because it didn't change anything.
I changed one thing. It killed a bloodsucker and put him in the ground.
That's correct. And it
Because
took you away from the woman that
because
loves you.
despite what has happened, despite recent events in Sarajevo,
Mhm.
one man is not enough.
No. No. One man is not enough.
Good. Well, we understand each other on that regard, at least.
And
I've heard about you, by the way.
Oh.
I understand that you're a habitué of circles.
Do you?
Mm-hmm. I don't know much, of course. I am a political prisoner released under the grace of our holy Orthodox and autocratic Tsar,
Of
the
course.
ruler of all the Russias, King of Poland and Finland,
Of course.
Khan of the Great Steppes, whatever other titles he has assembled to himself. In short, Nikolai Romanov II.
Largest pig in the pigsty, yeah.
Please don't be crude, Constantine.
Well,
What is the
I am quite
what is
drunk.
the Tsar? What is no what this is important. You want a political education. Let me give you some. What is the Tsar?
I didn't come here to fight with you, Petya.
Of course not. No, you came to tell me that you were sorry you married your wife.
No, I came to tell you and to put everything in clarity that I respect and admire you,
Hmm.
that if you did wish to speak to or see Lilya, you would have no argument from me.
What is it again that you respect and admire about me? My vision. Even though my vision did not improve in prison, but especially because, especially interesting story. I broke my spectacles my second year, and I was not able to afford new ones until I was released.
Well, I'll tell you this. I do not need you to respect or even like me. That's not why I came here. I did not come here to argue. I simply came here to make it clear to you where I stand.
I see. You respected me because I could see things and because I could act. Isn't that it?
No,
No. Well,
I respect you, Petya. Pyotr. Because when
if we're
I
going to
look
be
back,
like that, just go back to Pyotr Sergeyevich as if we had never met.
when we look back at the course of our lives, we often see that there are people that while they did not treat us well, and while we may have resented them at the time, they understood the truth far better than we did. And I came here simply to tell you that, not to argue. And
Of
I know
course
that
not.
there are things that you and I are still going to disagree on, and I welcome our debate if you should ever choose to have one.
Oh no, Petya, this is perhaps a lesson. Let me complete your education for the night. And he just slams you right up against the wall, and there's a knife right at your throat. It's a little one. It's like this long. It's like, if I bore you any ill will, Kostya, I would have killed you 5 minutes ago when we were walking by the refuse dump. It just lets you go. You're a valuable man, Kostya. Do you know why?
Why?
Because you're a bourgeois pig and we need them. For now. You've read your Marx by this point, haven't you? You know that we must advance through the bourgeois stage of the revolution. Don't worry, Kostya. You will be one of the leading lights of that period. You will help usher in the permanent revolution and the dictatorship of the proletariat if we are to be doctrinaire. Of course, some comrades are less doctrinaire.
Well, I am glad that I got one very particular answer.
Did you ever visit? Did you ever visit Sioma when he was in Switzerland?
No.
I would have liked to have done that. Because Ulyanov was there. I would have very much liked to have heard Ulyanov speak. You've probably read him. He goes, Vladimir Ilyich. He goes by a different name in the party, of course. Lenin.
You know, one of the things that is true is that I have read my marks at this point because I am not, in fact, a child.
Good God, I can't believe you got through Capital, because that is a doorstopper and a half. I mean, if we'd had that in the prison, it would have occupied my entire time, but most of the prisoners, well, they would have found other uses for the Leafs.
I do confess that sometimes I think about using it simply as a brick in the foundation of some strange corner of the house. But when I think of Marx and other great thinkers, be they ponderous or no, a thing that I know is true is that if I were to meet them in person, in the flesh, they would despise me and I would despise them. And the way that I know, assuredly, that you are a visionary and a great man is that I don't like you and you don't like me.
Wow. I feel that this will not be difficult for us to resolve. I will not be in Moscow very much longer.
Whatever your choice, obviously.
I have completely forgotten my manners. Did I not tell you I enlisted? I'm joining my regiment in 2 days.
You did.
Of course. Why, this is a great war for the fatherland, and I am a man of blood.
Oh, Petya.
Yes, Kostya.
I wish you all the luck in the world.
Mm. You wish I had cut your throat just now, because then it would expiate your guilt. My
That is actually
regards
not
to your
what I
charming...
wish. I have 2 beautiful children and a life that I quite enjoy, as frustrating and painful as it is.
Ah, you have had 2 children by Lilya. How wonderful. I wish you the delight of your happiness.
Leo,
My regards to
and
Lilya
Sasha.
Viktorovna. My regrets that I haven't had a chance to print up my calling card, so I'm afraid it would be most awkward for me to drop in. But perhaps when the war is over by Christmas, I shall. We shall all have a chance to break Lent together.
Of course. Christmas then.
Christmas.
And I just walk off into the night.
Look out, Kostya. Look out.
God, he's irritating.
I know. I'm.
You just literally need to know.
I'm just trying to give the sense of Petya being basically just able to hold it together currently. There's a lot of
Full hat on this
centrifugal
fucking
force
guy.
Yeah. There's a lot of centrifugal forces here. He's about...
Yep.
Yep,
Cool.
yep.
I'm gonna plow through just Kostya's bad night. Kostya comes home.
So do we want to go a little late? So do you want to talk to your wife, or do we want to assume that happens, or?
Up to you, Daphne. I feel like you haven't gotten a thing.
Yeah, that's right. We haven't brought Daphne in nearly enough. But I mean,
I mean, I can go a little bit longer. I don't want to go too much longer, but
Yeah,
no.
I
The only thing left is Daphne and Petya, I think. So
that line was dark. Oh, you've had 2 children. I was like, oh shit. Oh, he's definitely gonna fucking gut me in this alleyway.
No. People's Commissariat for Internal Security is going to invite you to assist in their inquiries.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I can run along. Wouldn't mind like maybe having it seen with my husband. It's like it's a quick one, and then we can.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this can definitely be this could totally be a Kostya decided to try and run out the clock thing, and it's the night that Petya is gonna leave for the regiment.
No, I think Kostya goes home and looks like ragged as fuck. And Lilya has stayed up because she doesn't know where he went.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think like there's like a light still on in the study.
Oh yeah, totally make Lilya swear. Yeah, there's a light on in the study, and I'm not even trying to hide the fact that I've come home late.
Well, these excursions usually have quite a colorful explanation. I can't wait to hear what this one is about.
Ugh. Is Lilya sitting like on the couch or something?
Yeah, I think like she's like sitting. I think she was she was probably just about to like she was about to fall asleep and like lie down, but I think she's like sitting like a bit like primly, like she probably had a book and she was just reading it, just waiting for him, but it's gotten dark, it's gotten late.
Yeah. So Kostya comes in and is like, you can tell he's just like run down. And he comes in and he sits on the floor at your feet and puts his head on your lap.
I think like kind of almost unconsciously like Lydia starts like stroking his hair. It's like, oh dear, this must be quite something. I hope it's not another I hope it's not a political meeting where you've become lost in the rhetoric.
He laughs against your leg and says, "No, no, darling. I did get lost in rhetoric, but not at a meeting in an alleyway
Oh.
with
Well,
Fyodor Sergeyevich."
I think like her hand like stops and just kind of like lies on like on the side of your head. Is it really?
He's back.
The room feels much colder somehow.
Yeah.
Just somehow. I see.
I went to see him. I went to tell him that if he wanted to see you, he should come.
How
Because
is
I
he?
know your feelings.
Is he okay? Yes.
You know, and he leans back and looks up into your face and says, "You know, honestly, he was very Petya still. Ardent and intelligent and a little crazed. But he has not been well. You can tell that he has been sick. And that he has been hurt."
I, I I knew the times the land would be cruel to him. Did you tell him about? Has he caught up with
He already knew. Apparently he had met Ruslan. Or not met Ruslan, met Semyon. And Semyon had filled him in, and then Ruslan talked to Semyon, and then Ruslan definitely talked to me.
And then you chose to, and then you sought him out. Petya.
I did. Should I have told you first? I wasn't sure.
No, no, you're right to at least confirm it. Ruslan is always a bit of a devil.
Well, he's still very angry with me.
Does Lilya know why he's angry at you? Is this one of those like, yeah,
I think we've never said it directly, but I think Lilya knows more than Lilya maybe says Lilya knows. And I'm saying this like, I think I when I get like in my cups a little, or I get like extra emotional, it becomes very obvious my feelings about Ruslan. And I put my hand on your hand and I say, "Lilya, I should tell you that he is married."
I think her hand tightens in yours. if Petya is as unchanged as you say he is in some regard, I assume he married out of principle.
I'm honestly not sure. I did not meet her.
Mhm. Should I see him?
My darling, that is entirely up to you. He is joining the army for some godforsaken reason. So we don't have much time if you do choose to do that.
Both knew these bills would come due someday.
Did.
I think Leah feels like her head hurt a bit. It's
Yeah.
pain from her injury.
Mhm.
I don't know what I could say to him. Should I apologize? Should I? You knew, I waited and I waited,
Mhm.
but waiting is nothing compared to what he has gone through.
True.
And
But also, you did wait. And we didn't know if he would ever come home.
well, he has come home and he seems determined to leave again. Utterly like him to orchestrate his every movement to make a point.
Utterly like him.
Are you okay?
Oh,
don't-
yes. I mean, he still hates me, which of course he does. I did express my admiration, which was probably foolish because it gave him a leg up on future conversations.
Find that people who express their hatred of you, well, I wish I could understood why.
Well, because I am a bourgeois pig.
That makes me the wife of a bourgeois pig, you know?
And he looks up at you and he smiles a broad smile and goes, oink, oink.
Yeah, I think earlier, like, can't help but like laugh at that. I will have to see him. This has been. I knew that I've been on this tightrope for this long, and now, and soon is the moment of truth.
Well, whatever you decide.
Should I not see him then?
I cannot make the decision for you.
Well, you saw him. I
I
assume
did.
his behavior was colored because he was seeing you, and well,
I don't know how he would react to seeing you. I have told you all I can of his condition. I think it will be difficult for the reasons that it will be difficult, and easy for the reasons that it will be easy.
last I saw him, I vowed to be with him together, and yet reality has dashed it, and yet with what we have now, I do not regret it. Yeah, that'll sound very truthful out of character.
Look at
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, look at us thriving.
Look at all this like genuine intimacy.
Yeah.
So do we want to cut to the train yards the
Yeah.
next night?
Oh my
And
God. Okay.
It starts with Petya coming up to a group of 3 other men, and they all look kind of a little bit like him. And they're all looking at each other, and one goes, 68th, 113th, 118th. Petya goes, I'm in the 23rd in the 2nd Army. Good, good, good. Make contacts with the rest of our people there. And then any luck, well, the Germans will come over and sing the International. Good luck, comrades. And that's, when he turns around and starts walking, shouldering up his pack, and just sees Lilya, I guess.
Yeah, I think she came to try and find him at the station.
He's, dressed in a loose privates, the loose-fitting Jimstorka, the Russian private blouse, military cap on, which he takes off. Lilya Viktorovna Ivanova.
I think Lilya walks up to you and gets closer. Petya, I'm
A bell rings, which is the first bell before their train boards. So
I'm so happy to see you.
please don't take this the wrong way. I'd hoped to leave the city without seeing you. I did not know how you would feel. I did not know. Please. And he just holds out his arm almost like it's old times. You have children.
You left and I tried to fill the space.
I wouldn't have left if it had been up to me.
No.
He gives a really weak smile.
No. No, it wasn't your fault.
Do you have a photograph of them?
I think Lydia will pull out. I think it's a photo of the 2 twins. What's the name of the other one, Serafine? I think you tried to mention it, but Petya was
I said Sasha. It was the first name that came to mind, but it's Leona and Sasha.
Leona and Sasha.
Leona. That's a name I barely remember using. How lovely. What
you had written, I tried to keep it going. I tried to.
Really? I don't know what to say. I feel like every writer does when they're confronted with their juvenilia, both touched and embarrassed.
They were all I had of you. And
I'm sorry that I did not write even after it became easier. I had things to say, but they're such things that I was not then capable of writing down, and now that I probably could muster the skill to do it, I would not want you to learn.
But I want to learn. I want to know.
Lilya, I suffered so much. This is a moment where it all comes out for a second. But I survived. Not everyone did. Of the 32 that came with me into the gates from Atomsk, 12 will never come out. 5 died. 2 are crippled. It's very typical, apparently.
I think You said you had to stretch out. You had held out a hand, right?
Yeah, no, yeah. I think he like leads you down very gently, like you know, a proper young gentleman leading down his lady.
Yeah. I think like Leah will take that hand and take it in both of hers and say, "Hey, let me take on your suffering then. Let me hear about it. That
The bell rings again. Lilya, I have to go. I
please come back."
how that he leans in impetuously, just grabs you hard and kisses you.
Yeah.
I have very little to give you, but take this. And the third bell rings, and he picks up his pack and runs for the train. Like, are you happy, Lilya?
I think she's like crying as she yells like, "Yes, I'm
Good,
very happy."
good. I'm happy for you. And he swings into the train. As it steams away, you look down at the book, and you realize it's a book you sent him, a book of Mikhail Lermontov's poems. And like it just falls open to one, like the book's been opened and held there many times. I will read it for you. Like an evil spirit, thou shocked my heart from its rest. If you take it away now, thou wilt win my healing blessed. My heart thy temple evermore, thy face the altar's Godhead sign. Not heaven's grace thy smiles restore, grant absolution, joy divine. And written next to it in pencil is just one word, Lilya.
Tear drops on that word.
Train steams away. We get that nice big sweeping cinematographic shot. Petya just slouching down. I mean, this is not like a nice car with like seats and shit, you know. All the other guys like maybe like grabbing one guy's like, hey, come here, give me a cigarette if you have. And just sits there smoking, watching the lights of Moscow fade into the distance. And see. That was worth staying up for.
That was so good.
Can we cook or can we cook?
Oh,
We can't cook.
We have the tape. Here's hoping.
Awesome.
Well, guys, that was.
As we got into all the feelings finally.
Well, I can't follow that, so let's not. Let's meet again next time, and also we'll schedule the makeup too, because I think we're gonna need a fifth one. So, and in case, until then, good night and be well, and thank you, Shadow.
You would
Daryl's
not
gonna
put
poison
it-
us all again.
Yeah, Nightshade Berry.
We
is just like-
agreed that
I
we're
did that
over
once.
this. We are
It
over
happened
this.
One time.
Years ago. It was years ago.
Somehow
Barely a
I'm still
century.
not over being poisoned.
I mean,
Anyway.
you kind of deserved it. Not to
No.
relitigate things.
Not to relitigate things.
You did
What
seduce his
she,
brother.
what Daryl
Her
did
brother.
was nothing compared to what Daphne did at the end of Unhappy All Unalike.
That's
I'm
true.
sorry you had to find out that way, which is the ice pick into the heart.
But that only affected one person. All right, I
Yeah.
didn't poison multiple people.
But did it? Did
I
it
don't know if
really?
we can play. like,
Connie died that
Olympics.
night. You don't know the ripples you caused.
Poison is poison, you know. Sorry you had to find out this way. Dear God,
It
we're
was
all
just a little
monsters.
poison.
Yeah, it was a little poison that eventually
little
led
light
to a
poison,
bittersweet
light
It was
ending.
preceded with the Daphne mission statement. I have an idea, but it's just going to make everybody sad.
Yeah, I think that's gonna. We have to get that tattooed on Daphne one day. I have an idea, but it's just gonna make everybody sad.
Are you guys ganging up on me? This is mutiny. This
It
is cutiny.
It's cute me. Yep.
Any conversation with any Dostoevsky character is just like, can we? How do you walk away from this conversation, but also, ow?
So many of them end that way, you know, the somebody stuttering out a bunch of things with M dashes in between them. Good to see you. Must call again. Wonderful. How? Yes, of course.
Great, good, excellent. Did you know?
Well, my
Heard
friend,
me. Okay, bye.
my friend who has lost everything has just collapsed in the middle of this bar in a puddle of his own vomit. I guess I should go.
Yeah.
It's not technically a monologue if I keep if I keep interjecting with non sequiturs.
We haven't had a classic Daryl hate sex couple since the last time you and I did that. So
Hate sex.
you missed Varvara and Timothy. They were the hot hate sex couple of the year.